That we set a modest like goal on our first YouTube episode, and you guys absolutely delivered. Thank you so much. We'll continue to up the ante, but goal number one, it was set, it was accomplished, and it's all thanks to you guys. Bo Brock, Alex Clancy, follow along on Twitter at LockdownEasyCards, at BOBRACK, at Clancy's Corner. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I noticed something over the weekend that I'm sad to say I didn't pick up earlier on. And I'll tell you what it is coming up. We do want to kind of set the foundation for a new audience because just like the podcast, Alex, we want to build this thing organically. We want to start from the bottom and just work our way up. So let's do that. Basically, our benchmark segment, what people talk to us all the time when they're talking to us for the first time in a long time. They're like, hey, I love Throwdown Thursday. So maybe we need to tell our new audience what Throwdown Thursday is.
Yeah. It was the best idea Bo's ever had, best and only. I'll give him credit for it. Him and I argue on a daily basis on this podcast, and it's fun. I mean, it's why we love it. It's all organic. We're not like saying, hey, let's argue about this today. This is all just we disagree on a lot of things, and some of them are big topics. So he came up with an idea that every Thursday, the last segment, we would pick up a topic, and whether it be in season or out of season, and say, you know what, this is what we're going to debate on today, and call it Throwdown Thursday. What do you think? Like, I'm in. So what we want to do now we're reintroducing ourselves to YouTube. If you're watching now, hopefully you've moved over from our old YouTube station. We want some comments. We want some ideas. We're going to outsource what we're going to talk about on Thursday because it's the off season. New ideas are welcomed. You know, we'd love to talk about the Cardinals. We could talk about the same 3 topics all week, every week, and come up with new, exciting ideas to do it. But leave comments here, wherever you're watching this, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, and we'll come up with the best one, and it'll come from you. So, again, Throwdown Thursday is a great segment. We'll be segmenting them every Thursday into a different channel as we build the Locked On Cardinals YouTube channel.
I mean, basically, Throwdown Thursday is watching a Globetrotters game versus the Washington Generals. You're
the worst.
When you watch for the pageantry, as far as who's going to win, we know it's going to be me, and then Alex is going to, he'll put on a show at least. He won't let the crowd down, and he'll take some risks. Just
what it's like. You know, it's like when Bo says his take. Do you remember when you were 7 years old and you had the thin little blue mat and it was awesome during sleep time where you got to sleep under the desk and it felt like you were in a little fort? That's what it's like. That awesome feeling when you know you're allowed to take a nap for those 5 or 7 minutes when Bo's talking. That's pretty much what it is.
So as I prepared for this unprepared bonus content today on our YouTube, which we're excited about that we got to do, and we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna continue to do it. If you guys continue to mash that like button, we will actually come up with new content, even if it doesn't exist. But I looked up what the latest news was on the Arizona Cardinals, and Kyler Murray. I saw that he had mastered Cliff Kingsbury's offense. Why the expectations for him in year 3 are even higher than they were in year 2, and there was MVP chatter in the preseason before last season. And he did kind of indulge that early on, at least halfway through the year. Here was a guy that was, he scored nearly 2.5 touchdowns per game if you include his passing and his rushing totals. So he was certainly putting together statistically one of the better seasons the Arizona Cardinals were winning. And we know that MVPs have to win a lot of games in order to be in consideration. But Alex, when I tell you that Kyler Murray has mastered Cliff Kingsbury's system, when I tell somebody like you like that, who's very skeptical about Cliff Kingsbury again, is that good for the Cardinals? I mean, that he's mastered this system, even though the system might be easy gameplay on Madden.
What am I going to say? What's the response that I would give to that question? Cliff Kingsbury hasn't mastered Cliff Kingsbury's system. So the reason why when Kyler Murray got drafted, the ceiling seemed to be pretty high, was that at some point Kyler Murray was going to be the only one seed across the landscape of the NFL who knew Cliff Kingsbury's system the best. That was the ace up the sleeve, where if Cliff Kingsbury's system was going to work and you had this incredible talent in Kyler Murray, albeit somewhat abstract compared to what you normally see from the quarterback position, then that's a good situation for the Cardinals to be in.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Cool. I mean, cool.
Here's the thing. I still am under the belief that the jury is still out on Cliff Kingsbury. I think that we talked about it today when we were trying to take the comparison from the Phoenix Suns, who just punched their ticket to the Western Conference Finals after years and years of futility. This team figured it out. Even, Monty Williams was in his first year last year, and this team, they let kind of the opportunity for them to go to the postseason for the first time in 10 years slip through their fingers despite a 10-0 bubble, because they didn't take care of business before the bubble. Because, with the talent on that roster, which should have been enough, they didn't get it done. So they kind of bear down a little bit, and they focus more, and they took a more professional approach to game in and game out during the regular season. And they had the second best record in the NBA. Obviously, they added Chris Paul. They added the veteran leadership. They added a future Hall of Famer, which is big. But, the big difference, and I think the common denominator between, or not the common denominator, but the difference between what the Cardinals are going to try to accomplish and what the Suns have, is they're going to lack as far as the leadership at the head coaching position with Cliff Kingsbury. And even if Cliff Kingsbury shows and proves that he can be the guy, is it going to be enough to do what the Suns have done? I think that that's going to be very tough for the Cardinals to accomplish, no matter how talented the roster is.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you look at this. So I think of it a different way. So yes, the leadership void from the front office and the coaching staff for the Arizona Cardinals is a lot, more prevalent than that of the Phoenix Suns at this current time. Let me ask you a question. If you're Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay, which roster in the NFC West would you choose to coach? Would you like to coach? And I don't know the right answer. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals, look at Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan's offenses. And you look at the Arizona Cardinals offense, and I get it's just DeAndre Hopkins, pretty much top-heavy wise, but you have a capable running back room. You have A.J. Green, who I don't think is done yet. And then you have a great offensive line. And then you look at the defense, and it's like, man, this roster, 1-53 on game day, may be the most fun to coach of the NFC West. And you look at Cliff Kingsbury as the head of it, it's like, imagine this team with Sean McVay. Imagine this team with even Kyle Shanahan. And that's what I think about.
Yeah, I mean, I think they all go for Russell Wilson, right? I mean, he's the best quarterback in the division.
That's right? The most top-heavy roster. You have Russell Wilson, Jamal Adams, Bobby Wagner, and I guess DK Metcalf. So I guess you're right. I mean, I guess there's more than just Russell Wilson, yeah.
And then, McVay, I think he's biased because he's already vacationed in Cabo with his new quarterback, and he's probably pretty excited about Matthew Stafford, even though I've got my own reservations about a guy who hasn't had a winning record or anything close to it in the last couple seasons. But, it's intriguing what he could potentially do with that receiving core. But no, I mean, the Arizona Cardinals, they absolutely stack up on paper with the rest of the division, especially on offense, that I think that it would be Shanahan and his flat brim, McVay and his hair gel, and Pete Carroll with his chewing gum. They wouldn't turn their nose up on the Arizona Cardinals offensive personnel, no doubt about it.
Yeah. I mean, so the thing with Cliff Kingsbury is, when you bring up the leash, so many NFL coaches would have already been fired. So many's probably unfair. A good handful, even if you're not a Cleveland Browns head coach, whether it was Rod Chudzinski or whatever his name was, or Freddie Kitchens, who were one and done guys.
Yeah.
Like, after last year, after how they finished, coaches have been fired for much less. So when you say the leash is going to go like 6 or 7 weeks into this year. If they start 3-4, you have two awful decisions to make between fire him midseason or stick it out for another year, and then you are on the tail end of Kyler Murray's rookie scale contract. Sound like a broken record here. That's why the Bill Belichick approach of getting rid of him at the end of this year, or this most recent year, instead of rolling with them through, I think would have been the more prudent decision. But Steve Keim is a gambler, and I mean, he's gambling again on Cliff Kingsbury. That the leash thing, I don't think that there's this line where it's like, this leash is too short, this is too long. It's case by case.
I just believe 2 seasons is too short. It's too small of a sample size. The with the roster where it was in 2018, you made the decision to move off of Josh Rosen. You chose to go with a failed college coach as your next head coach. The expectations year one was just to see if they could tread water, if they could, compete, be competitive. They were in some games enough to get a second season. And then the second season they came out of the gates, guns blazing, and then they fell short. Year 3 is going to be the true test. Like we've said, improving on 3 wins to 5 wins to 8 wins. I think anybody could do that, except for maybe Zach Taylor in Cincinnati. He hasn't done that. But a lot of guys with any kind of NFL knowledge or just play calling ability and talent on the roster, I think that they can, especially when you have a player the caliber of Kyler Murray. So this is going to be a true test. We're going to get a true sense. And I know a lot of people are scared and already feel like they know what they're going to get from Cliff Kingsbury. We need to have a good idea of who he is as a head coach. Can he hack it by maybe midseason this year? But we'll see. It's Locked On Cardinals, part of your Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Bonus content here with Bo and Alex. We're going to wrap things up here shortly, but I do want to say this. So I was hanging out this weekend, threw on some TV. The wife had gone to bed. Waterboy was on, and I can't believe I didn't put this together, that Isaiah Simmons' number is number 9, and Bobby Boucher was number 9. One of the most ferocious fictional linebackers of all time. Some point we need to figure out some way to merge those two together.
It's interesting. The first thing that I thought of was, after you said that, was his hit on Cam Newton.
And the Patriots.
It's Waterboyish. That's a Waterboyish hit. That was a Waterboyish hit. Wouldn't have been penalized in the Thunder Bowl, whatever they called it. What did they call it? I don't even remember. The dust. Who knows? Very underrated movie. Interesting use of high heels. Yeah. And really quotable. Good stuff. Bobby Boucher,
and now Isaiah Simmons is donning the number 9. We are going to continue to set some modest goals as far as likes on our new YouTube channel. It's nice. It's fancy. It's new to us, and we're going to have some fun with it. We appreciate you guys playing along today. Tomorrow, same thing. We'll set it. Just listen in. We got a jam-packed show tomorrow coming up at the end of the week. Our guy Johnny Venerable is going to join us on Fridays, and we're going to have some guests after and in between, I'm sure. It's Locked On Cardinals. Make sure you're following along at Locked On AZ Cards, at Clancy's Corner, and at BRACK, Bob Rack. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow on the podcast.